Welcome, everyone. This is Virginia Parsons, your Hangout mentor. And I'm here today to interview Adina Laver, and we're using Hangouts on Air for this interview. Now, Adina is an MBA, a Master's in Education, and a certified professional coach, and the founder of Divorce Essentials, a nationally recognized divorce and relationship coach. Now, Divorce Essentials serves individuals and couples who are considering, preparing for, or navigating divorce and want to pursue this life transition in a healthy, self-empowering way. Through her one-on-one and couples coaching programs, as well as her highly acclaimed multimedia self-guided divorce companion program, Adina helps individuals and couples reduce the emotional, financial, and spiritual cost of divorce. What stands out about Adina's work is her understanding and integration of the neuroscience behind fear and change. And she's going to share some of this with us today. Adina's media appearances include television and radio, and she hosts a free monthly support call for those preparing for divorce. Welcome, Adina. It's wonderful to have you here. Come say hi to our audience.
Thank you, Virginia. It's great to be here. I'm so glad to be a guest on this show.
Well, we appreciate having you, and I'm very interested in your background, Adina, and how you came to become a relationship and a divorce coach.
It's a great question, Virginia. I'm glad that you asked. And one thing I will say is before I started doing this, as many of us do these days, there are many careers and many stops along the way. And I had a long career as an educator, as a curriculum designer and trainer. And life kind of underwent a change at one point, and I came into divorce both professionally and personally around the same time. And when I began my coach training, I was really positioning myself to work with organizations that were going through change, particularly schools. And when I came into it, I got recruited by someone who had a divorce mediation firm and said, you know, our clients really could benefit from this work. And I started thinking about doing that, and lo and behold, as if the universe was sort of moving you in a direction, I suddenly found myself in the midst of my own divorce story. And every single one of us has our own unique story. Mine was at the age of 43 discovering that I was gay and I was in completely the wrong life, and ending my marriage and transitioning pretty much every part of my life. And so in that process, I worked with a number of divorce professionals, really became versed in understanding the law, had a lot of relationship and communications training from my prior background, and then my own personal experience, and brought this all together in really forming this business.
Well, boy, you really went through not only divorce, but a major life transition. And I know what a challenge it was for me when I went through a divorce. So what makes this one of the most difficult and challenging transitions that we ever face, Adina?
You know, there's really a number of things that do, and I think of them in two categories. And one is kind of the practicalities, or how we experience everyday life. And then there actually is science behind it too, what makes it so difficult. And in terms of the practicalities, there's a number of big things, and anyone like yourself who's been through this, there's this loss of life as we know it. And for many people, the idea that they are going to get married and have a family is something that's always been with them, or they've had for many years, and so the loss of that is very, very devastating. The other piece a second piece that's in here is what it can do to our own self-confidence. You know, when trouble happens in a relationship that can lead to divorce, it leads to some really powerful questions like, what's wrong with me? Was I not a suitable partner? Did we fail? Did I not do everything that I could? What's wrong? And so it really affects the self-confidence at a very deep level. Then there's also societal views, and I often think about that book, The Scarlet Letter, where she walked around with the big scarlet letter A. And in divorce, that big scarlet letter D almost reads to people like failure. You know, if your marriage didn't survive, you failed in some way, and it can bring a lot of shame. There's also this sense of financial security. You know, most of us really hope that we're on a path to financial security, have a job, get a house, be able to retire, and when divorce comes up, all of that comes into question. Usually I want to talk about the kids, right? If it's a family or a couple that has children, and it really doesn't matter if the children are dependent age or if they're grown, it has a really big impact, and parents worry about what the impact will be on their children of going through this divorce. And, another piece is that people in general are conflict averse. We don't like to deal with conflict. And so divorce is kind of like the biggest conflict that you can have, and you have to make these huge decisions and advocate for yourself. So on these very practical levels, it's a perfect storm for fear. And then I like to talk about the piece of where does the science come in, is that there's a whole science of fear that really can cause us to become paralyzed in this process or really gear up for a very big fight. And it stems back to the way our brain evolved from millions of years ago, is that we were wired to scan for threats all the time, threats to our survival. And that old saying of it's better to beware of the tiger in the bush and be wrong than to make the mistake that everything is fine and then discover that the saber tooth is there. So, we are actually wired in our brains to constantly scan for threats. You just mentioned divorce, trust dissipates, and you are finding threats every place you look. And so all of this makes it one of the most difficult periods that anybody can ever navigate.
I can really relate to that because there's so many huge life issues that are wrapped around a marriage, and therefore that are put into chaos or feel like they're put into chaos with a divorce. And then the neural physical part of it, I also just think about what I went through. And, is there something that they call like the divorce diet? I mean, you just drop weight because your adrenals have gotten so overextended that suddenly, you can't even hold weight on. Part of the fear, the fight or flight mechanism, is that related at all?
Well, I think people can go one direction or other. They either put all the weight on or they drop weight and stop eating. But it really does, is that it does affect our basic systems and, just how we typically respond under stress. And so for some people, they drop tons of weight, and some people, they put tons of weight on.
Okay, well, for me, it was dropped. It was the skinniest I've ever been. I don't think it's the best kind of diet to be on, for sure.
It is not. It is not.
Well, let's talk about the support that you provide and what is unique about your approach, Adina.
So the support we provide, comes in a variety of forms, but really our aim is to help people make this transition and actually come through it in a more empowered way. I love to say that when people work with us, that there's no need for that divorce recovery at the end, because they've actually gone through a process that became so self-empowering along the way that when they arrive on the other end, that they're ready to embrace what life has to offer. And so in terms of what we do, we have programs for people who are considering divorce and are just stuck. I mean, people can stay stuck not only for weeks, months, but actually for years and even decades. I've had people call where they've spent close to 2 decades feeling stuck about what to do about this decision. So having programs that really help people to move through that piece of considering. We have programs for people who are navigating the divorce process. And what I have to say is one of the most successful things about our work is our success rate at keeping people out of high conflict divorce, even if it started initially in a path that seemed like it was going down high conflict. But really working with people, as long as one partner is able to pull back and stop adding fuel to the conflict, it's amazing how things can change. And another really exciting part of our work is our work with couples. I like to say to people that we're not committed to anyone getting a divorce. Sometimes people are afraid to talk to me. Well, if I talk to you, it means I'm getting a divorce. And I always say to them, not at all. What it means is that you recognize that something is not right in your life, and you're ready to take an active step in making it right. And so we have amazing stories of couples who are working to put their marriage back on track, of a couple or a client who was working with us who got mostly through their marriage and through their divorce, and made so many shifts that now they've gotten back together with their spouses. So there's no commitment to divorce on our side. It's really about how people come to us because that's the thought that's going through their mind. And what makes us unique in what we do is that we really do integrate a whole variety of things. There's cognitive work of talking, there's visualization, there's meditation techniques that we work with, and we also really bring in the science of how we change. And I don't know, Virginia, if we have time, but I'd love to share one piece of that science that I think is really helpful for people to understand.
I think that would be wonderful, and if it's helpful, let's do it. Let's provide it for the viewers.
Okay. So the way that our brains are designed is that we actually have trillions of neural connections in there. So neurons, they're all connected in different ways. And I like to think of them so that we can really understand them, is like going up to the head of a hiking trail. And when we get to the head of the trail, there's a big sign that says, start the trail here, and then all the trees are marked every so often with a blue or a red or something. And our brain has all these different pathways. And because we're creatures of habit, a lot of us have heard that human beings are creatures of habit, is that we tend to follow the same pathways again and again because they're well marked, they're well paved, and things like that. A big piece of our approach is really working with changing the neural structures, the neural pathways that we're following in the brain. So if we've been following a pathway that causes us to, not act from our strongest self, to self-diminish, to maybe bury our heads when things get difficult, or to constantly rise up and fight, is that what we actually do is we move people over from the trail they've been going down, the one that's really well marked, to another trail. It's going to land them a place that's a lot better for them. And I feel like as the coach, we go through with like the machete or the hatchet, and we clear away the brush or the overgrowth that might not make that trail so attractive. Mm-hmm. And we start to carve out a new pathway. And that's why the process really works. I can't make your spouse be different. I can't make the mother be different or the mother-in-law, but I can help the client be different by helping them find a different path to think about, to how they respond to things, the way that they converse, the way that they advocate or talk about things. And it makes a world of difference.
That makes so much sense, because once you've established or helped them establish a new response pattern by, you say, clearing away the path, it's much easier for them to continue to go down that new path, and the result is they're going to feel entirely different. That's what I get from that.
Absolutely. That is exactly what happens.
I love it. I wish I'd known that many years ago. But there's people who are going to really be able to take advantage of your skills and your knowledge and your ability to help people make this transition a much more positive one. And as you said, you don't even know. It might be that the changes that are made will allow the marriage not only to survive but thrive. So that's a wonderful byproduct potentially as well.
It is.
So tell us about, you have this new multimedia program called Divorce Companion, and it sounds intriguing to me, so let's let everyone know how that works.
Sure. And really, Virginia, the Divorce Companion came out of, again, my own experience coming in professionally and personally to this as an outsider, and looking around at the other professionals and saying, there's so much to know here. How does anybody find their way? Attorneys have this piece of information. Financial professionals have this piece of information. How do you figure out what to do at home when you're still living with the spouse that you're having the conflict with? What do you tell your kids? And I did what lots of people do, and I sat on the internet and started searching for things and just found so much that really could incite anger and could bring up a lot of fighting and things like that. And I put my educator hat on, because I told you I came from this field of education. Mm-hmm. And I said, we need a program here. We need a way to guide people through this that will lead them down a healthy path. And so I pulled together a team of divorce professionals, an attorney, a mediator, a therapist, a parenting coach, a certified divorce financial analyst, a financial planner, and a few people going through divorce themselves, and said, all right, what do we need in order to help people go find their way through this without bringing up more anger, and greater acrimony in the process. And they gave me the information. We put together the program. And the reason it's multimedia, many people, if you go on Amazon, you can find tons of books about divorce. But the brain under stress and duress is not really able to sit and read the 500-page book, Everything You Need to Know About Divorce, nor does that really help you to know how to respond in your situation. So we created this multimedia program, multimedia meaning that it's video, audio, and an interactive guidebook filled with activities and exercises to help people find their way through this. And it's filled with information, but information delivered in a way that the brain can receive. It's filled with exercises so that before you're sitting in an attorney's office and they're asking you to make the most significant decisions of your life, that you've actually had a chance to think about them and to plan for it and to prepare some things even on paper before you go in there. And so this program is really designed with all these components to help people make thoughtful, intentional choices and to feel prepared to navigate this rather than just like they're jumping onto a speeding train.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. I've not heard of anything like that. So this is a program that can be a self-guided program?
So right, I'm going to just hold it up here for people to see, the Divorce Companion, and it comes with audios in terms of CDs or MP3 files. The program is available in hard copy form like I just showed you. It's also available in digital form. So if people don't want to walk around with something or they're used to working with digital materials, it's fully interactive digitally. And it's basically available at divorcecompanion.com. They can work on it by themselves. So it's a self-paced, self-guided program. It is also an amazing program if you're already in therapy or in counseling to be able to work on with somebody who's already supporting you. So that makes it truly beneficial. And as I said, there was a therapist on board with this. And when I share it with therapists and counselors, they love the fact that there's information that they can work on together with the client to really help make decisions. And so it can be worked on by yourself or in conjunction with someone else who might be already on the support team.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. So you're saying again that they can find this information at divorcecompanion.com, correct?
Absolutely. You can go there. There is a table of contents that you can open up. There's a sample section that has a sample audio and a sample piece of the guide. There's testimonials, and it gives you all the information to really be able to make a decision, is this going to be a useful resource? And it really is a perfect resource for people who have been sitting on the fence for a long time and are just trying to figure out a low-risk way to move themselves forward. It's also perfect for someone who's decided, but before they get to the attorney, want to be able to be thoughtful about setting their priorities, deciding what kind of divorce this is going to be, and not trying to raise things up for lots of high conflict.
Fabulous. So anyone who's watching who may be struggling with the process of going through a divorce or knows someone who they care about and want to help them become aware of this resource, again, they can go to divorcecompanion.com. Now, Adina, before we say goodbye, what is the greatest wish that you have for the people that you work with?
You know, today I was talking with a client and I was remembering this part of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Just stay with me here, I promise there's relevance. And that final scene when Grandpa Joe and Charlie get in the elevator and there's this buildup of energy and Grandpa and Charlie think that they're going to crash and they're really worried. Oh my gosh, we're building up all this speed and all this energy. Aren't we going to crash? And in fact, what happens is they break through the barrier of the ceiling and suddenly they're off and soaring. And so for me, when I think about the energy buildup that comes with divorce, energy by itself is neither bad or good. It's whatever we make of it. And so my greatest wish for my clients is that they're able to find their way to support that is going to enable them to harness this energy that really builds up in the course of divorce and then transform it for good in their lives. That there is beauty, there's hope, there's a beautiful life waiting for them on the other side of this, and that they can take this and harness it in order to reach that place.
Oh, that's just wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. Appreciate the information. If you want more information from Adina, you can also go to divorceessentials.net. Thank you so much, Adina. It's been great talking with you today.
Thank you, Virginia. It's been wonderful to be here.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye now.